All right, everyone. Welcome to contracts training. So it's Wednesday, so that means we're going to start working on contracts, and it is that time of the month when we're focused on listing agreements. So last time I went over the Gora listing agreements, and just as a reminder, actually, let me pull this up real quick. Give me 1 second. You can go to the YouTube video and be able to watch any of our old videos. So share this tab so you can see the right tab. So all you have to do is go to YouTube, search for KW Elite and Heartland Realty, and then come down to videos, and you can see all the market experts and contract training classes that we did. So last training class was over the new state residential contract. Big fan of that contract. Be sure to check that one out. And then, as I mentioned today, we're going to be going over the HCAR listing agreement. If you would like to see the listing agreement presentation for Gora, you can come into here, and we have that on the actual videos. We're up to, let's see, I think we're at, and here's the one, by the way. You're going to be looking at the one that has 16 views if you're looking for the Gora listing agreement. So that one was posted. Let me see if I can tell you the date. Oh, it doesn't show me a date, but just wanted to let you know. So if you're a member of the Gora board or the Indiana board, you'll come back to YouTube and watch these. For today, we're going to go over the HCAR listing agreement because I haven't done this one in a little while. So this is for all of our Elizabethtown and surrounding areas. And how do you fill out that listing agreement? So very simply, it's all listing agreements are very similar. So you can get some benefit of this regardless if this is the exact form that you use or not. A couple of key differences, and I'll go over those as we fill this out. So main thing on a listing agreement is understand this is the legally binding document that you sign between you and the seller that gives you the right to be able to sell the property. It also outlines all of the terms, how long, when are you going to put the house up for sale? How long are you going to have it for sale? What is the price? What stays with the home? And a few other things that are just important to know, like advertising laws, that you're going to put a sign in the yard, that we're an MLS, what the commission is, and everything along those lines. So we will send out an email both with this video, with this actual form, and then also with written instructions on how to fill this out. So you'll always have a reference for that as well. So first thing is line or section number 1. This outlines the basic information. Where's the property that we're going to sell? So we do need to put in the whole address. Excuse my 123 Main Street. I was just testing something, but you do need to put in the both the numbers and street, as well as the city, the state, and the zip code. Then you're going to put being in the approximate size. So this is unique to HCAR. You can either put in the size or the total amount of the land. So this is just the land. This is not the size of the house. So you can put in it's say 90 by 120 or it's 1 acre, something along those lines. Then you can go to the PVA in order to be able to pull the deed book, the page number, and then what county it's in. You probably already know the county, but you can pull a deed book and page number from the PVA. This is really important because it makes sure that we can identify the address and the parcels that the county use match and that we're selling the same piece of property. Next section is all about dates. So what date is the listing start? That's this first line. And then what date does it expire? Typically speaking, there is no standard in this. Typically speaking, you're going to be signing 6-month contracts, but you do have the freedom to sign contract at any amount of time that you want. You can go over 6 months, you can go under 6 months. I do recommend that everybody does at least 3 months, just because average days on market right now, depending on what market you're in, are anywhere between 75 and 100 days. So if you think about it, by the time you put the house on the market, it could take upwards of 90 to 100 days to be able to sell. And this listing agreement needs to cover not only from the time that you put the house on the market, but also through pending and then all the way to closing. If for some reason, let's just say you had something listed and it goes under contract 2 weeks prior to this listing agreement expiring, you would need to extend the listing agreement to ensure that you're still eligible for commission. Now, there's some verbiage in here that allows you to be eligible, but better safe than sorry. Always want to be on the same page with your sellers and make sure they know, hey, we're extending this to go through closing. And that way we're contractually legal and obligated to be able to do what we said we're going to do and them to do what they said they were going to do. Next is all about the price. So you're going to put the gross sum of, and this is where you would write it in. So if you're putting 200,000, you would spell out in words $200,000 and no cents. Then on this bottom line, you would write in the numerical $200,000. Okay. It also says, it goes on to say here that this property stays together with all improvements, any fixtures, any real property, any above ground swimming pools. It kind of highlights everything that is considered a fixture and plans on staying. So if you ever have a question about what stays and what doesn't, every single listing agreement, whether it's this HCAR agreement or it's the GORA agreement or it's the Indiana agreement, they all kind of outline that as well. And then there's an open section to be able to fill out appliances. So here's where you would put range, refrigerator, dishwasher, microwave. Please don't put all appliances. Be specific. Make sure you put every appliance. If you're selling a home that has a ice maker, for example, a built-in ice maker, that needs to be listed. If it's not listed on here and it's not listed on the purchase agreement, then the seller doesn't have to leave it. And usually the buyer's under the presumption that it does stay, so they would be upset. Keep in mind, if you have something on here or if you don't have something on here, but it's on the purchase agreement always supersedes this, which means, let's just say that the washer and dryer didn't stay when you were filling this document out, but on the purchase agreement, the buyer put the washer and dryer stays. If the seller signs that purchase agreement, they're on the hook for being able, or for leaving that washer and dryer, even though this listing agreement said they didn't have to, which ultimately means they're going to get mad at us. So just always double check that. I've had to buy a few appliances in my day because I missed it and made mistakes, like we all do, right? Additional appliances and equipment. If there's any other personal property, you would list this. A lot of times we'll see playground sets, even though it's kind of a fixture, garage door openers, maybe surround sound, things along those lines. Then next is if there's any leased property that stays with it. So if you have a water softener, a security system, a propane tank is a big one. What's in the fuel tank and surveillance, Ring doorbells and all of that. Is it either leased? Is it owned? Does it stay? Does it not stay? And then if none of those things apply, so if they don't have a water softener, you would check not applicable. Okay. Next is all about commission. So they're going to initial here, just an extra layer to say, yes, the agent went over commission with me. And it says, if the property sold before the expiration date, then they will pay the brokerage fee of blank percent. So here's where you're going to put your percentage. If it's not a percent, I see this a lot on lots and investment properties. You can do a flat rate. So I use this a lot if I'm selling something typically under like $50,000. Instead of saying, X percent of commission, then I just do a flat rate, maybe making up a number, maybe $1,500, so on and so forth. And the next part is this is a key piece right here too. So in this next line, it says, a licensed agent sees it within blank days of such expiration to any person whom the seller and broker negotiated with, then you have the right to earn the commission. So if you show this property and somebody makes an offer, and in the middle of making the offer, the property expires, the seller, as long as it's within a certain number of days, I usually put 60 days inside of here, because we've seen where buyers will look at a property, come back later, and then make an offer. This is what protects you and allows you to still be able to earn the commission inside of there. So really important part, make sure you're putting at least 60 days. Some people put 90 inside of there. Next section, this next blank is how much co-op or compensation is the seller going to offer of the listing commission. So just to be clear, this top one is the total commission. This bottom one is how much is going to the buyer's agent. So you'll outline that. Typically, it's going to be whatever this number is, half of that is going to go here. Not always, but typically that's what we ultimately see. Okay. It does say here the seller, and then you would circle or check one of these, either does or does not authorize the broker to place the information in the MLS. So the MLS is, as you all know, that's our local board. So that's, in this case, Heart of Kentucky Association of Realtors, or Greater Owensboro Association of Realtors, or Southern Indiana Association of Realtors, or any of the others that we're part of. And it basically allows us to put in the MLS, which syndicates it out to your websites, to the KW websites, to realtor.com, Zillow.com, every realtor website. There's over 600 different ones that the KW and the boards syndicate to. Okay. It also says that this information will be sent through many forms and through many different forms of media, including internet, television, local publications, computer database, so on and so forth. So this paragraph just says, yes, I allow you to put it in the MLS. The next is, does the seller allow you to place it on the internet? This should almost always be a yes, it does. In a unique situation, it can be no. If you have that and you have a seller that doesn't want to put it on the internet, call me just to make sure that we're following all the NAR and local board rules, but I'll gladly help you with that. And then the next one is the seller does or does not authorize the broker to display the property as a short sale. So a short sale is when the seller is selling the property, knowing that they might not recover enough money to be able to pay off their loan. That's called a short sale. The seller can give you permission to say it is a short sale. So if it isn't a short sale, then you don't have to worry about that. Just check does not, because it does not matter. If it is a short sale, typically you're going to want to say yes, because we also have to indicate that inside of the board. Okay. And it says here, they will initial here. I understand and acknowledge that if the option is selected does not, the consumer who conducts searches for the listing on the internet will not see the information in response to their search. So basically saying, if you choose to not do this, then it's not going to show up on the internet anywhere, and buyers won't be able to see it. Okay. Again, number 6 is another initial place, and it says that it allows not only will you put in the MLS, but it allows to syndicate to all those websites. So just making sure they know that not only will you be on the internet, but you're going to be on every realtor's website and all the portal websites as well. Next section is all about advertising. So there are certain rules, and it's KRS, what's that say, 324.117 if you want to know the exact rule. But all advertising must include the broker's information. So you must put Keller Williams of Heartland or Keller Williams Elite, for example, or it must have the name of the principal broker with them being designated as the principal broker. And our principal broker, of course, is Kellyanne Harris. If not, so if the seller makes an advertisement when it's for sale for you, I see where people will put it up. Maybe at their job, they have a posting board. Maybe they post something like a flyer up. If it doesn't have that information, the seller doesn't get in trouble. We are actually the ones that get in trouble. So you want to make sure that they know any marketing or anything they want to do, make sure it comes from you. Even if they want a social media post, you create the post and then just have them share it or tag them in it. Okay. Number 8 is all about the general warranty deed. That's the highest form of home ownership. It means there's no additional liens or anything against the record of the home, and they're handing the new buyer a free and clear title. Number 9 is all about the property will be when it will be available to be shown, and that it will be not when it will be available, that it will be shown and allowed to be sold to anybody regardless of race, color, religion, sex, disability, family status, ancestry, national origin, sexual orientation, or gender identity. This is a fair housing rule. Basically, as long as the buyer can afford to buy it, we agree to sell it to them regardless of if they're any of those things. Okay. Number 10 is kind of a repeat of what the commission paragraph said, but it just says right here that we will cooperate fully with any other brokerages and any other agents, and the seller refers to agree to the listing broker any inquiries about the property. So if somebody comes and knocks on their door and says, hey, I'm interested in buying the property, they don't enter into negotiation with that person. They call you and you enter into the negotiation. So that's something that a lot of people, I think, maybe miss or don't go over with the seller. So I think that's a really important thing, that hey, if somebody reaches out to you and wants to buy it, just make sure that you contact me and allow me to negotiate on your behalf. All right. Number 11 is seller does either allow you or not allow you to place signs in the yard. So most of the time, again, this is going to be a does. Number 12 is putting a key box on. So it says it does or does not allow you to put a key box on. 99% of the time, they are going to allow that to happen, or sometimes they might have a combo code. Like one of the door locks where they can just punch the code in. That's also acceptable, but this is allowing you to put a combo box on, and also outlines that only, and it says it right here, that licensed real estate inspectors, appraisers, and agents are authorized to occupy the property. Next one is 13 is all about seller disclosures. It says that they will fill out seller disclosures and you get to pick has or has not. This should always be a has unless it is a commercial property. But if it's a residential property with 3 units or less, then it does require a seller disclosure. 4 units or less, it does require a seller disclosure. Also, this is something important to note. If anything changes, let's say that they have a water leak while they have it listed, we are required to, or the seller is required to update those disclosures. So it's up to us to remind them to do that, but we have to keep those disclosures updated even throughout the listing period. Next one is where we're getting into compliance. And this one, it says you either the seller has or has not filled out the consumer guide to agency relationships. Just a reminder, those are required by the second meeting or as soon as you enter into a business type conversation. So you should already have those signed by the time you get to this point, but it does tell you that, or does remind you to do that. And then also lets the seller know that they have to do it. Number 15 is all about lead-based paint. You all know this one because we've gone over this before, but if a structure was built prior to 1978, you do have to fill out a lead-based paint disclosure, even if it has been fully painted over since then. If it's built in before 78, fill out the lead-based. I actually, just for protection of my seller and myself, if it's built in 78, I still fill it out. It says prior to, but at 78, it's kind of that gray area. I always fill it out 78 before. If it's 79 or after, I do not fill it out. Okay. The seller agrees to transfer to the buyer at closing any warranties, any service contracts, or anything else that's outlined. So if they got a new roof, because I know we're dealing with that a little bit now, and the roof has a 30-year warranty, that warranty transfers, as well as any other warranties with the home. Seller acknowledges that utilities will be on at the time of inspection and appraisal unless otherwise stated in the provisions. So this clearly states that you have to have the utilities on. Now, if you're selling a property, like it's an investment property or something along those lines, and they don't have utilities on, then you can actually get those. It's okay for them to be off. You have to put in the further provisions, which is down here, and we're about to get there. You would put in there, utilities will not be on during inspections and appraisal timelines. And then anytime somebody makes an offer, that needs to be put in the offer as well, that it would be up to the buyer to get utilities turned on for the purposes of inspection. Okay. Next, it says that they have read this and the property description and things along those lines are as accurate as the seller knows, and that if the seller communicates something to us, that basically they can't come and hold us, the board, you as individuals, liable for any misrepresentation from the seller. Next is mediation and arbitration. If something were to happen and you and the seller have a dispute, this says that we're not going to go out and basically sue each other immediately. We're going to first try to work it out amongst ourselves. If that doesn't work, we're going to go to mediation or arbitration, which is where a third party comes in and helps negotiate to find a common ground that works for everybody so that we can all avoid court costs and the ugliness that all of that can bring. Now, if you do have any other further conditions, you would state that in section 20. So here's where you would do that utility connection for the buyer. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of times what I'll see in here is like suitable, contingent upon finding suitable housing. So if you have a seller that needs to sell a property and buy property at the same time, a lot of times we'll put that in so that they know that if they don't find suitable housing, they're not on the hook to be able to move forward with selling their house. Now, keep in mind, if they sign a purchase agreement, and you still have to have that contingency because the purchase agreement overwrites this. So if you put that contingency in here, but you don't put it in the purchase agreement, then the seller is no longer protected. So just make sure anything that's in here is also in any purchase agreements that you receive or counter offers that you write. Okay. It also states that we have to follow all the laws of the state of Kentucky, of course, and that both the seller and agree that this constitutes the entire agreement, that there are no oral or implied agreements that exist. So we can't say, hey, put on here, I'm buying it for $200,000, but actually only give me $180,000. We can't do that. That would actually be considered loan fraud. So that's why that's in here, in order to be able to protect yourself so that they know that the buyer and seller can't have any extra negotiations or anything along those lines. It also says that it's a legally binding contract. So making sure that everybody knows once they sign this, it is legally binding. And again, we would go to mediation or arbitration first, but it ultimately could end up in a court of law. And this, whatever this contract says, is how the judge is going to rule. They're not going to rule based on he said, she said. They're literally going to rule about how you fill this out and what's in here. And then that's what they make their determination off of. All right. Next and final is showing instructions. So in here, you'll put if the seller only wants the home shown on certain days or certain times, you can put that in here. A lot of times I'll put in like if a seller requires 24-hour notice for any showings, we would include that in here. Also letting them know that we use like the Showing Time app. You can put that in there as well. Once you've done all of that, then you're going to come out. This left side is for you, where you're going to put our company name, Keller Williams Heartland or Elite, the address, city, state. You're going to sign date and time. The co-op, if you're like sharing this with another agent, they would sign. And then ultimately the broker signs down below. You can just send that over to Kelly and she signs those right away. And then what's the email address associated with the agent as well. Then here's where the seller will sign. So the seller is going to sign here and print the primary seller and then their address, telephone numbers, all of that fun stuff. And if there's additional sellers, they can sign here. If you end up with more than 3 sellers, you can just add a line down here and have how many ever sellers you need to have. I see that a lot in estate sales and things along those lines. So pretty simple contract. This is one of the more simple listing agreement contracts that we see, but also one of the most effective ones because it has that mediation in there. I always like when whenever contracts have mediation instead of going straight to court. It keeps people from being sue happy, so to speak, if you will. But that's how you do HCAR contracts. And all of those things, I know I went over HCAR today, but they apply to all of our contracts. The general consensus or rules behind them. We have to make sure you read your listing agreements, make sure you fill them out properly, because if something happens and it goes to mediation or even court or any level of dispute, it always goes back to your contract. And if it's not in your contract, then it didn't exist, because verbal agreements don't count in the state of Kentucky. So there's your contracts class. Got that one done in 20 minutes. And I'll see you in a little bit on how to get paid in Command.